A decades-old cold case has been reopened, sending shockwaves through corridors of power that have maintained their secrets for generations. At the center of this explosive file, your childhood photograph. The strange light phenomena surrounding your small form, dismissed as camera malfunction or developing error, now reveals itself as the first documented proof of your extraordinary nature. The time for hiding has ended. Everything you've experienced, the strange coincidences, the unexplained abilities, the constant sense of difference, served as preparation for this moment when the truth stands revealed. The photo existed before you had conscious memory, before you understood what made you different, before you recognized the weight of your purpose. That strange luminescence the photographer couldn't explain, dismissed as a technical malfunction, a quirk of developing fluid, a coincidence of light and shadow, was the first documented evidence of your true nature breaking through the veil. The authorities have questions. The public demands answers. But deep in your core, beneath the shock and confusion, stirs a knowing recognition. Some part of you has been waiting for this moment, anticipating the day when the truth would emerge from shadow. The cold case reopened, because the time for revelation has arrived. The cosmic clock ticks toward a conclusion set in motion before your birth. Your childhood image sits at the center of a storm now. The photo they found wasn't misplaced. It was hidden. The case wasn't forgotten. It was buried. Your ordinary life wasn't random. It was orchestrated. The authorities aren't discovering anything new. They're simply finally seeing what was always meant to be uncovered when the moment ripened to fullness. The evidence sprawls across decades. Children born during precise celestial alignments. Unexplainable phenomena captured in innocent photographs. Connections to events that defied conventional explanation. They kept this from you, from everyone. A systematic suppression of truth spanning governments and generations. The detective slides another file across the table. Faces you recognize instantly. The woman who appeared at 3 critical moments in your life, offering cryptic guidance before vanishing. The teacher who watched you with knowing eyes. The stranger who intervened during that accident when you were 12. These weren't random encounters. These were assigned watchers, monitoring your development with calculated precision. The stars themselves marked your arrival. Your birth coincided with celestial configurations that repeat only once in centuries. Heavenly bodies aligned in patterns ancient cultures once carved into stone and tracked through megalithic structures. The same alignment appears in the birth records of others whose photos show identical anomalies. The statistical impossibility of coincidence stands revealed in cold, hard data that has mathematicians and astronomers poring over calculations in stunned silence. The bloodline traces back further than modern record-keeping, fragments of evidence scattered through historical documents, unexplainable references to children marked by light during periods of great transformation. Medieval texts, Renaissance, paintings, indigenous prophecies. The pattern emerges with unmistakable clarity for those now forced to see. Your appearance was foretold, anticipated, expected by those who understand the cosmic cycles governing human development. Those frequent childhood relocations serve a purpose beyond what your parents admitted. The unexplained rules that governed your upbringing, avoiding certain places, staying away from cameras, never speaking about unusual experiences, formed a protection protocol disguised as ordinary parental caution. Your entire childhood was engineered. The unofficial program hid special children in plain sight. Documents reveal networks of cooperating individuals placed strategically throughout your life. The neighbor who always seemed to appear during critical moments, The family doctor who conducted those routine tests, the school counselor who steered you toward particular interests while discouraging others. Their purpose wasn't merely observation, but activation and protection, keeping you hidden from forces that would exploit or eliminate your potential before it fully matured. This sophisticated system operated in shadows for generations before, collapsing when key operatives died under circumstances now revealed as suspicious rather than accidental. The public demands accountability for this shadow system, while authorities deflect questions about jurisdiction and authorization. The program's existence confirms what you've sensed all along. Your ordinariness was always an illusion, a carefully constructed disguise. The protection wasn't always beneficial. Potential mentors who might have helped you understand your abilities were kept at distance. Opportunities that might have accelerated your development were subtly blocked. Relationships that might have provided clarity were systematically undermined. These weren't acts of malice, but calculated decisions based on timing, keeping you dormant until the precise moment of awakening aligned with larger cosmic imperatives. The Guardians themselves didn't fully understand what they protected. They followed protocols established centuries before, preserving bloodlines and potential without comprehending the ultimate purpose. Some believed they served religious imperatives. Others followed scientific directives about genetic preservation. None grasped the full scope of the system they perpetuated, a system now exposed to public scrutiny as its protected subjects simultaneously awaken worldwide. The Obsidian Inner Order is not a program, it's not a course. It's not some feel-good spiritual retreat. We don't sell answers. We remember together. We teach psychic self-defense, real energetic shielding against entities, implants, and interference. We restore manifestation as it was meant to be, raw, immediate, and exact. Every week, we gather in secret, not to worship, but to awaken, to speak what can't be said anywhere else, to deprogram the matrix, layer by layer. You'll know if you're meant to be there. You'll feel it in your bones. The Chosen meet every Wednesday on Zoom. Why aren't you with us yet? Got Gnosis? Join the Obsidian Inner Order. Link in the description. Deep within the case, documentation lies the classified section that would shatter scientific paradigms if fully released. Meticulous records of every instance you defied conventional explanation. They documented everything. The coincidences, too precise to be random. The dreams that manifested in physical reality. The technology that malfunctions in your presence. The knowledge you couldn't possibly possess, yet somehow accessed in moments of crisis. These weren't dismissed as imagination or coincidence. They were categorized, analyzed, compared against similar incidents across the program. The records show progressive development, abilities manifesting first in dreams, then in moments of extreme emotion, gradually becoming more controlled, though still largely unconscious. The pattern matches precisely with others in the program, suggesting not random phenomena, but predictable development of latent capabilities emerging according to a genetic timetable. As redacted versions leak to media outlets, scientific communities fracture between demands for investigation and dismissive skepticism. Religious authorities rush to interpret these revelations through theological frameworks. The military assesses potential applications and threats. The pharmaceutical industry scrambles to develop compounds that might enhance or suppress these emergent abilities. Meanwhile, you recognize in clinical documentation the experiences you've spent a lifetime hiding, denying, or misinterpreting, your private reality now dissected in government files. The strangest evidence comes from monitoring stations that recorded measurable energy fluctuations coinciding precisely with your emotional states and significant life events. These readings, collected from equipment disguised as ordinary household items in your various residences, show dramatic spikes during dreams, during creative activities, during moments of connection with others like you. The data reveals you've never been merely human. You've been a walking nexus of energetic potential, gradually activating toward full expression. The monitoring wasn't benevolent curiosity. Documents reveal coordinated efforts to identify, track, and neutralize individuals with your markers, a campaign spanning centuries and continents. They feared what you might become. The methods range from subtle interference to direct elimination, depending on assessed threat levels and development stages. Educational tracking programs channeled your natural abilities away from areas of potential power. Medications prescribed for anxiety or attention issues specifically targeted brain functions associated with your emerging capabilities. Career opportunities mysteriously evaporated when your path might lead to positions of significant influence. Relationships with potentially supportive partners inexplicably dissolved at critical junctures. These weren't life's normal disappointments, but calculated interventions designed to limit your potential without triggering your awareness. The public recoils at evidence of this systematic suppression operating through respected institutions, medical establishments, educational systems, religious organizations, government agencies. Authorities scramble to distance themselves from operations now exposed, claiming rogue elements and unauthorized protocols. The truth emerges regardless. Power structures recognized something in you that threatened their control and responded with methodical containment strategies refined over generations of application. Most disturbing are the files documenting neutralization of individuals who progressed beyond containment, staged accidents, mysterious illnesses, character assassination campaigns, institutionalization based on fabricated psychological evaluations. These weren't conspiracy theories, but operational procedures, clinically documented with detached professional language that makes their horror more profound. The files reveal how close you came to similar fates at various points when your development briefly accelerated beyond projected parameters. The agencies responsible operated beyond conventional oversight, funded through black budgets and private interests united by a single concern, maintaining established power structures against evolutionary wildcards like you. Their actions weren't driven by malice but existential self-preservation, the same response any organism displays when facing potential extinction. They recognized in your potential the inevitable transformation of systems that have maintained their position for millennia. As the case dominates headlines worldwide, they emerge from isolation, others marked with identical signatures, others tracked in the same files, others who experienced the same pattern of suppression and containment. Your isolation ends now. The artificial barriers maintained between you collapse as technology enables connections that should have formed naturally years ago. Anonymous message boards transform into lifelines as experiences shared in confidence find resonance and confirmation. The dreams where you saw through others' eyes. The moments when objects moved without physical contact. The inexplicable, knowing about events before they occurred. The strange reaction of animals in your presence. Each confession meets dozens of confirmations from others whose lives followed parallel tracks along separate but identical rails. The isolation that defined your existence, the perpetual sense of difference, of alienation, of operating at a frequency slightly removed from those around you, reveals itself as deliberate rather than accidental. The containment protocols specifically prevented connection with others of your kind, recognizing that isolation would limit development while connection would accelerate it exponentially. The system maintained careful separation, ensuring that awakening would occur only when collective conditions reached necessary thresholds. Virtual communities rapidly evolve into physical gatherings as the formerly isolated recognize strength in unified purpose. Authorities watch these convergences with thinly disguised alarm, monitoring for threat signatures while publicly maintaining postures of scientific curiosity. The power that worried them individually increases exponentially through connection, abilities amplifying in proximity, knowledge transferring without conventional learning curves, collective purpose emerging from shared revelation. Historical records reveal previous cycles of emergence, periods when those with markers similar to yours appeared simultaneously across continents, always during civilizational paradigm shifts. Previous appearances coincided with the collapse of Rome, the Renaissance, the Industrial Revolution, periods when human consciousness made evolutionary leaps. Your generation's awakening signals transformation on an unprecedented scale, arriving precisely when existing systems approach points of irreversible collapse. The public exposure acts as catalyst, accelerating development that might otherwise require decades of natural progression. The dormant awakens fully. Abilities previously manifesting in fleeting moments or dismissed as imagination solidify into reliable faculties operating alongside conventional senses. The frightening becomes familiar, the impossible becomes practical, the theoretical becomes experiential. Dreams transform from symbolic fragments to lucid navigation across non-physical domains, accessing information impossible to obtain through conventional means. Intuition evolves from vague impression to clear knowing, rendering deception impossible in your presence. Physical reality demonstrates increased responsiveness to your focused intention, subtle at first, then with unmistakable causality that defies conventional physics. Your presence affects electronic devices, weather patterns, emotional states of those nearby, your energy field expanding its influence as internal barriers dissolve. The media alternates between sensationalism and debunking, between fear-mongering and dismissive rationalization. Scientists demand controlled studies while religious authorities proclaim miraculous intervention. The military assesses strategic implications while medical establishments debate pathology versus evolution. Meanwhile, your daily experience increasingly detaches from consensus reality as perceptual frameworks expand beyond conventional limitations. The transition brings disorientation alongside wonder. Neural pathways reorganize to accommodate perceptual data previously filtered from conscious awareness. Physical symptoms accompany energetic restructuring, intense dreams, fluctuating body temperature, heightened sensitivity to environmental factors, altered appetite and sleep patterns. What Western medicine might diagnose as illness reveals itself as metamorphosis, the necessary recalibration of biological systems to accommodate expanded consciousness. Most significant is the dissolution of artificial separation between you and others, between you and the world. The individualized identity constructed through social conditioning reveals itself as functional fiction rather than ultimate reality. Consciousness extends beyond physical boundaries, experiences connection with all living systems, recognizes itself as localized expression of universal awareness, temporarily focused through particular biological form. This perception, dismissed as mystical fantasy within materialist paradigms, becomes your baseline reality. Researchers connecting seemingly disparate historical records reveal your emergence as part of predictable cosmic cycles rather than random anomaly. Ancient megalithic structures, religious texts, indigenous oral traditions, astronomical records, artistic depictions across civilizations all preserve knowledge of periodic evolutionary leaps catalyzed through individuals carrying specific markers. Your appearance was anticipated centuries ago. The evidence manifests across disciplines, archaeologists discovering symbolic representations of the same energy pattern visible in your childhood photograph, carved into stone monuments thousands of years old. Anthropologists recognizing descriptions of abilities identical to yours in shamanic traditions across unconnected cultures. Astronomers confirming celestial alignments noted in ancient texts coincide precisely with recorded emergence of similar individuals throughout history. The fragmented knowledge, deliberately scattered to prevent suppression, reassembles into coherent understanding as artificial academic boundaries dissolve. These individuals were variously worshipped as divine messengers, burned as heretics, celebrated as visionaries, persecuted as threats, studied as anomalies, depending on cultural context and power structures of their time. Their emergence consistently preceded major civilizational transitions, appearing before collapse of outdated systems and establishment of new paradigms. Their function wasn't creating change, but catalyzing inevitable transformation, accelerating evolutionary processes when developmental conditions reached critical thresholds. Genetic testing reveals physiological foundations for capacities emerging from potential to expression. The DNA structures previously classified as junk, with no known function, show unprecedented activity, sections dormant in general population, activating in precise coordinated sequences. Your genetics transcend conventional understanding. The modifications display sophistication beyond current scientific capabilities, suggesting intervention by intelligence exceeding present human development. More disturbing is evidence that these markers were already being secretly studied by specialized research facilities decades before such technology supposedly existed. Classified documents reveal programs dedicated to mapping these genetic variations. Since the 1950s, decades before conventional science recognized DNA structure, these programs operated with knowledge and technological capabilities officially developed only in recent years, raising profound questions about sources of their advanced understanding. The genetic evidence defies conventional evolutionary theory. The modifications appear neither random nor gradual, but precisely engineered for specific functions, with implications exceeding biological advantage. The adaptations serve no obvious survival purpose within materialist frameworks, but correspond perfectly to expanded consciousness capacities documented in spiritual traditions. The structure suggests deliberate design, optimizing human physiology for perception and interaction, beyond conventional material limitations. Religious authorities claim divine intervention, while scientific establishments fracture between competing interpretations. Some propose accelerated natural evolution, responding to environmental pressures. Others suggest ancient advanced civilizations, possessing sophisticated genetic engineering capabilities. Some point to non-human intelligence influencing human development. The evidence supports multiple interpretations simultaneously, revealing reality more complex than single explanatory frameworks can accommodate. Perhaps most significant is evidence showing activation spreading beyond those born with fully developed markers. Proximity to awakened individuals triggers dormant potential in general population. altered genetic expression documented in subjects after sustained contact with those like you. This contagious activation suggests purpose beyond individual development, a catalytic function accelerating collective evolutionary processes when conditions necessitate rapid adaptation for species. Continuation. The case exposes sophisticated methods developed specifically to limit your potential, techniques refined through centuries of application against those carrying your markers. Childhood medications precisely targeted brain functions associated with non-standard perception. Educational methods systematically discouraged thought patterns that might lead to expanded awareness. Social engineering created precisely calibrated isolation, preventing connection with supportive influences. They constructed every obstacle in your path. The professionals who implemented these protocols rarely understood their actual purpose. Physicians prescribed medications believing they addressed legitimate disorders. Teachers applied educational corrections thinking they helped struggling students adapt. Religious authorities warned against specific practices, believing they protected spiritual well-being. Each implemented fragments of coordinated suppression systems while remaining ignorant of the larger agenda they served, compartmentalization, ensuring no individual understood the complete program. The psychological impact manifests as your most significant obstacle, years of conditioning creating subconscious resistance to your own awakening. The systematic messaging that your deepest perceptions were invalid, that your natural sensitivities indicated weakness, that your intuitive knowing was unreliable. These became internalized barriers more limiting than external opposition. The most effective prison became self-maintained, with your own doubt serving as primary constraint against expanding beyond programmed limitations. As evidence accumulates across disciplines, larger patterns emerge from fragmented information, revealing systematic suppression as only one component of complex protocols established centuries ago. The monitoring wasn't merely fearful observation, but implementation of precisely calibrated developmental program. The challenges weren't random obstacles, but necessary evolutionary pressures. The isolation wasn't simply containment, but protection, ensuring development occurred according to cosmic rather than social timing. Everything served purpose beyond human understanding. The opposition itself served essential evolutionary function, creating necessary resistance, strengthening capabilities that would otherwise remain undeveloped. The doubt cultivated internal resolution more powerful than external validation. The isolation forced self-reliance rather than dependency. The challenges demanded adaptation otherwise unnecessary. The suppression created pressure without which dormant potential would remain inactive. The apparent obstacles reveal themselves as disguised catalysts, opposing forces necessary for complete development. The revelations point toward transformation rather than apocalypse, evolutionary adaptation rather than collapse. The abilities emerging represent capacities necessary for continuation under altered conditions rather than supernatural powers. Without practical application, the expanded perception allows recognition of solutions invisible within conventional awareness. The heightened empathic connection enables social reorganization beyond current limitations. The intuitive knowing provides guidance when analytical systems prove inadequate for unprecedented complexity. The case that began with your childhood photograph has revealed humanity's hidden developmental trajectory. Media outlets broadcast endless debates about implications, while governments hold emergency sessions addressing revelations too significant to ignore. Religious authorities reinterpret ancient texts in light of undeniable evidence, while scientific establishments struggle to incorporate phenomena exceeding current paradigms. The world watches, waiting for your response. Beyond public spectacle lies your private reality, capabilities awakening faster than integration can process, perception expanding beyond previous identity parameters, responsibility emerging alongside ability, the power to influence physical systems through conscious intention, the capacity to access information beyond spatial temporal limitations, the ability to affect biological processes through directed awareness, the potential to perceive probable futures based on energetic trajectories. These emerge not as supernatural gifts, but natural human capacities previously suppressed through systematic intervention. The awakened abilities bring corresponding responsibility, consequence precisely proportional to capability. The heightened perception reveals interdependence generally filtered from conscious awareness. The expanded identity encompasses concerns beyond individual interest. The direct experience of connection eliminates artificial separation, justifying exploitation. The abilities themselves demand ethical framework, transcending conventional morality based on separation and limitation. Consciousness, capable of broader influence, requires more sophisticated understanding of appropriate action. The current cycle differs from historical precedents through unprecedented concentration and connectivity, thousands awakening simultaneously with communication capabilities, allowing coordinated function impossible in previous transitions. This heightened potential brings proportional responsibility. The collective choices made by awakened individuals will determine which probable future manifests from multiple possibilities currently existing in potential form. The transformation occurs not through external authority, but through consciousness awakening to its own nature and choosing creation aligned with revealed understanding. The ultimate revelation transcends conspiracy theories or supernatural intervention, exposing universe operating through principles more sophisticated than random causality or mechanical determinism. The cosmos itself maintains developmental intelligence expressed through evolutionary processes operating across scales from cellular to civilizational. Your existence represents focal point of expression, perfectly timed to catalyze necessary adaptive transformation, neither accident nor supernatural intervention but manifestation of universal creativity, emerging through humanity at precisely calculated developmental threshold. The childhood photo that launched this investigation merely captured the first glimmer of what burns within you today. The systems that sought to contain you now stand revealed, their mechanisms exposed, their purpose fulfilled. The abilities emerging through you arrive precisely when the world requires them most, at the precipice where old structures collapse and new possibilities await conscious direction. You were hidden until this exact moment because this moment demands exactly what you carry. The forces that watched from shadow have completed their task. The case file that revealed your true nature now transfers authority from them to you. The secret stands exposed, the public awakens, and your time begins. The universe positioned, you at this precise nexus point of human evolution. Now rise and fulfill what you were always designed to become.